Did you know that in every major organization across the world, like Facebook, Google, YouTube, they use 90% of the time Linux operating system? Why do I need to know that? Because in order for you to be a hacker or be in cybersecurity in general, you need to know three primary things. Firstly, you need to know how to operate the Linux operating system. Secondly, you need to know how to find vulnerable configuration in that same operating system. And thirdly, you need to know how to exploit that vulnerable configuration, or in other words, how to hack it. Hello everyone, this is Costa, you're at Bullhack Academy, and today we're going to be learning the core Linux operating system commands, how to hack with those commands. Unfortunately for you guys, this video has turned out to be quite large. It can be really exhausting, especially when you're new, and this video is targeting absolute beginners. Take some breaks, don't watch it all, it's quite a lot of information, so let's get to it. You're currently looking at the terminal, which is a command line interface that is known as the shell. We can run commands to operate the system through it and write scripts for automation and other purposes. In the future, we'll better understand the shell and we'll also see how we can customize it, but for now, let's just find out as who we are logged into. We can do that with the command whoami. As you can see, we're currently logged in as root. In Kali, you can see that in this particular shell, our username is written at the beginning, and this is the name of the machine that we are currently operating from. So we're currently logged in as root. By the way, did you saw what I did? I cleared the terminal. You can do that by pressing Ctrl and L. So Ctrl plus L. Literally, if you click that combination, then the terminal can be cleared. Otherwise, you can use the command clear as so. In our Kali machine, we get to see our current working directory from here. So if we are from a limited or a different shell, we might not have that information. So we're currently in the home directory, as you can see the tilde, but we can, for example, check our current working directory with the command pwd, which stands for print working directory. So we're currently at the home directory for the user root. To list the contents of the current directory, in this case the home directory, we are going to use the command list, which is ls. So those are the contents of this current directory. We can specify arguments for different commands in the command line interface, allow for us additional functionalities. We can use those functionalities by applying additional arguments. We can check the arguments by typing --help, for example, or sometimes, let me just make that smaller so we can see better. As you can see, there are multiple arguments. Each argument does something different. And there are plenty of those. We can list the subdirectories with the argument -R, for example. As you can see, it prints out all the contents of everything within this directory. Or we can look for hidden files with the argument A, which stands for all files in this current directory. Hidden files begin with a dot. Those are hidden directories. This is a hidden file. If we simply type list, this is the normal view that we're being presented. And with an argument A, we're represented with everything within this current directory. Additionally, we can concatenate arguments and, for example, list files and show detailed metadata about them with the argument AL. So let's do that. AL. As you can see, we're presented with a lot of information that might confuse you, but don't be scared. This is actually pretty simple. In the future, we'll be talking about file privileges and type of files. But without really diving deep into it right now, I would just say that here in the beginning, this is exactly that. We have the type of file, which is a directory. Then we have privileges for that specific directory. We have read, write, execute for the owner, and we have no privileges for the rest of users. Let's just continue. Let's not make it too confusing for you from the very beginning. I have cleared the terminal and I made the terminal a little bit bigger. By the way, I didn't really mention this, but you can do that yourself with the combination of Ctrl and plus to make it bigger and Ctrl and minus to make it smaller. I hope that you can see better this way, so let's continue. Now we can change to any directory using the command cd, which stands for change directory. For example, let's go to user local. Now, as you can see, we are located in that specific directory. We can also check it with pwd. Yes, that is correct. If we wanted to go back one directory, we should simply type change directory . And as you can see, we're currently being transferred to user directory. We can also concatenate a so. Oh, sorry. And as you can see, we're transferred to the root directory, which is the very beginning. Or in Kali, or the newest version of Kali at least, we can also change to a directory that is existing in our current location by simply typing its name. For example, let's go to home, and we're being transferred to home. So that's quite convenient. We can make a directory, but let's first go to user local, and we can make a directory here with the command mkdir, which stands for make directory. We type the command and then we specify the name of the new directory. Let's call it new dir and go to it. We can also, in Kali at least, in this specific shell, I think it's a zsh shell or perhaps bash, I'm not sure, but in this specific shell we can also use the tab to complete commands or list for files. For example, ls or cat, let's say. Oh, there are no files, so we can't really do that. Let's go back a bit and do that. ls, and I have pressed tab twice, and as you can see, I'm presented with different options. I can use the arrow keys to pick a specific directory if I wanted to list the files within it or its content. Let's do that. As we can see, nothing is printed because this specific directory is empty. I typed the first 3 characters of the name of that directory, and I have pressed tab. So I'm presented with different external commands that I can use that start with that specific name, new. Or I can simply go to the directory. This is quite convenient and you will be using it a lot in the future. Now that we have created the directory and we went into it, let's create a file. We can do that with touch. We can create an empty txt file. So touch command, and then we specify the name of the file with a so. Alright, so now if I list the contents of this directory, I should be seeing new file as it is. We can echo things into it. So echoing is a command which basically allows us to print out stuff on the terminal screen. For example, as you can see, I have just echoed this string into the terminal. This might seem quite useless, but it's actually quite powerful sometimes. It has a lot of uses. For example, I can use this string, for example, subscribe and like this video if you find it useful, and insert that string into a file with the operator greater than. Using that operator, I'll feed that string into the new file. Let's check the contents of that file. We can do that with the command cat. Now, there are better ways to dump the contents. of a big file, but we'll go into it a little bit further down in the video. So cut new file, and as you can see, the string that we have inserted into the file is being listed onto the screen. So cut has multiple uses. I advise you for each of those commands, for yourself and for your own diligence, to check the help menu just to see what options are there. Oh yes, so I have tried the -H, and as you can see, the terminal tells me if you want to see the help menu or the help interface, you should actually use the --help. You should do that yourself for each and every one of the commands that I'm going to show you. If I wanted to append the contents of file 1 into file 2, I could use two operators of greater than, as so. For example, let's create first a file 2, touch file2.txt. Now, if I wanted to transfer the contents of new file into file 2, I would do that as so. Let's see what happened. Okay, so as you can see, I have used actually two operators. When I'm using two operators, I am appending information into file 2. So if I repeat the command, there should be two lines of the same string, as you can see. So what happens if I use a single operator? Let's see. Now we have just one string. That is because when we are using a single operator of greater than, we're basically substituting and rewriting the content of file 2 with the content that we're feeding it from file 1. So any information in file 2 will be deleted and rewritten with the new content coming from new file. This is really important to grasp, because you can basically delete data that you stored in the second file, and you actually wanted to append new data instead of deleting it. We can also use better ways to change data in TXT files or other format of files. We can use text editors from the terminal itself. For example, we can use nano, which is of course quite popular, as it is really useful and simple to use. We can use it as so. We typed nano and then the name of the file. As you can see, we are presented with the options to write new data into the file. And as you can see at the bottom, right here at the bottom, we have multiple options. Let's say if we wanted to save it, we should use ctrl O. Then we're presented with the option to basically change the name of the file if we wanted to. Let's just keep it that way. I'll press enter. And now if I wanted to exit that specific text editor, I'll press ctrl X. And there we go. Now if I cut that file, you can see the new data is being inserted into it. We can also use other text editors such as Vim or Vi. This is quite powerful text editor, and it is really preferable in a way to be used in most cases, as it provides you really rich amount of functionalities. And if you become a master at Vi, you'll do a lot of scripting or basically anything concerning text editing quite fast and optimized in a way. So if I wanted to insert anything, I'll just press A, and then I'll be presented with the mode insert, which is displayed right here. So right now I can type anything, and this mode allows me to insert new data. If I wanted to exit that, I would just press escape. And then if I wanted to write that information into the file, I'll press shift and then colon, as you can see, we're currently writing commands right here at the bottom. And then W for write, Q for quit if you want to quit the terminal. And if you're not root, it might ask you for permission. And if you want to save yourself some time and you want to skip that part, you just type that specific symbol. And there we go. We have successfully exited the text editor. In another video, we're going to be talking more about text editors, because text editors such as Vi can be used for privilege escalation, and also we can do quite a lot of scripting. So stay tuned for that. We might need to move file1 to another location, such as, for example, to the temporary directory. In this case, we would use the command move, which is written as so, mv. Move file1 or file2, it doesn't matter. You can move any file to, and then specify the new directory that you want to move the file to. In this case, it is the temporary directory. Let's go there. And as you can see, this file has been moved. So we can also use that command mv to change the name of the file as so. So move the name of the file that we want to change its name, and then the new name, like let's say new file name. And there we go. It has been successfully changed. Let's now download the file from the web with the command wget. Wget dash capital O, let's say wordlist.txt. Let me just copy that URL that you're not really seeing. Okay, so this is a URL pointing to GitHub, and I'm downloading a word list file. And you know what? Let me explain it here. So this command will download the file wordlist.txt from GitHub and save it as wordlist.txt. So the hashtag stands for a comment field. Everything after the hashtag will be ignored by the terminal, but it might prove useful for you to better understand what we're currently doing. So wget will download that file and it will save it as wordlist.txt. I can also name it as anything else, but in this case I would like it to be wordlist. Okay, so that specific file has been successfully downloaded. We can download also an entire website code, the backend code, with the recursive argument of wget-r, not capital R, but small r, and then let's say HTTPS, let's say Facebook. As you can see, a file with the index.html file has been downloaded, and it's located in the Facebook directory. And that is because when you're not logged into Facebook, you have access only to that specific file. I'll just clean the terminal for now, because that's a lot of spam. Now, as you can see, that file is quite large. I have dumped the file with cat. Let's just do that again, actually, just so you can see the amount of input there is into that file. So that's pretty raw, you know, and it looks quite confusing. You don't really, when we're talking about really big files, we can also see their content with the command less. So less prints out content page by page or line by line. Let's say index.html, and now I am using the mouse scroll button to scroll down, and you can see I'm scrolling, and we're seeing the information line by line. I can also use the arrows as so. And if I wanted to quit that specific command, I would just type Q. There you go. So let's say that we wanted to see, or let's analyze that word list file that we have downloaded. It's in the beginning, in the temporary. Let's see. Less word list. You can see what type of entries there are in the word list file. It begins with the A, and then it's probably alphabetical from A to B, then to C, etc. But see, it looks like that file is quite large. We're already on B. It looks like it's quite large. So I'll not just scroll like a monkey until the end of it. I would like to see how many lines are there, or how many words are there in that specific word list. We can do that with the command word count, or wc word list. So there are some numbers, but what are those numbers like? What do we understand from those numbers? Nothing really. Let's see how many lines are there in the word list file. 7,776. So sometimes a word list might contain sometimes a word list might contain, as in this case, a single word or a character or some numbers or combinations. Sometimes it might be a username, let's say in the beginning, then a column, and then a password, or the reverse. So if we wanted to check, instead of how many lines are there, how many words are actually there, we can do that with word count -w and then word list, which in this case it's going to be the same because on each line there is just one word. But I already told you, if it is split by any delimiter, then you'll be seeing the exact amount of words in that specific word list. Sometimes this is quite important when we want to analyze a specific word list. Some word lists could be containing millions of passwords or combinations, or hundreds. Let's say that we have forgotten where the file is located at, and we really need it right now. We can look for it with the command find. The correct syntax is as follows: find the directory we want to start the search process from, in this case the root directory. This is the very beginning in a Linux file system, and then we want to specify an argument, and that argument could be a lot of things, but in this case we want to be looking for a specific file name. So we type -name, and then in double quotes we're going to be typing in the name of the file. In this case we will be looking for, let's say, wordlist.txt. And let me just continue that practice because it seems to be quite useful for you. Comment field with hashtag looks the entire system for wordlist.txt file. And as you can see, I have pressed enter, and we already found the word list file located in temporary. There are multiple word list files actually. One located in fast track, that is within user share set source fast track. Then user share SQL map data.txt wordlist.txt, and one located in the desktop. So there are multiple word lists, and it found all of them. But that is because we are currently logged in as root, and the root user is like administrator in Linux. He has access to all directories and can do anything on the system. But what's going to happen if we are limited user? What I mean by limited? A limited user is, let's say, the normal user. He doesn't have access to multiple places on the system, and he has limited access to what type of commands and files he can use or access. So let's swap user with the command su and type in Kali, as this is the normal user in Kali. Now you can also notice that the symbol changed, so we are seeing a $sign. When we are logged in as root, you often see that the command line interface starts with a hashtag. When you are a normal user, the command line interface starts with a $sign. Sometimes in different shell environments, you're not going to be seeing neither the type of user you are, or the type of computer you're logged into, or its name actually, or the directory. All you're going to see is this, either a hashtag or a $sign. So this is also important to know. Let me just clear with the command clear. Now I'll repeat that same command. Find the directory, then I'll specify the name word list, and let me just delete that for now. Oh, as you can see, there is a lot of permission denied, which is an error because we don't have privileges to access those files located in that specific file directory. So a lot of output. We don't really have time to analyze it all, but we can actually fix this. In Linux, we also have file descriptors, which we can use in certain situations, such as this one. We can call them with the numbers 0, 1, and 2. Let me just do that instead, where 0 stands for standard input, and 1 stands for standard output, and 2 is standard error messages. Let's see how we can use those file descriptors to our advantage. Okay, let's find the name word list, the same command, but this time we're going to write, actually I'm going to write it 2 for standard error messages, feed all errors into def no file. So let's see what happens. All those error messages are gone. Why? Because the error messages are being fed to that specific directory. So the directory is def and the file is no. Everything that goes into no in Linux is being discarded. It's being destroyed. This is how we got rid of the error messages. And in this case, it found a word list file in those specific directories. As you can see, they're actually quite different to the ones that we found as root. That is because that specific user has access to different files on the system. So let's go back to root. The following command is called curl. It is really useful command, and I cannot really emphasize enough how much you're going to be using it in the future. So my advice to you is to really master that command, see what it can do, and let's introduce you to it. Curl is a really powerful command. Let's see what it can do. I'm just going to paste the URL that I have copied before, and let's see what happens. Press enter, and there we go. It has outputted all the contents of that specific file located in GitHub, wordlist.txt. So it makes an HTTP request towards that specific server that contains that specific file. We can also download the curled data into a file just as with wget. We can do that. Curl and then that specific URL dash small o, not capital as with wget, and then let's say new word list. And there we go. We have new word list. It is exactly the same as the one here. The following command is called grep, which stands for Global Regular Expression Print. It is an extremely useful command as it allows us to look for specific strings within a file or look for specific files within a file system. So we can use it in multiple ways to save us some time while searching for a string, for file name, and let's see how we can use it. So in this case, I'm going to be using the argument capital R, which is going to recursively grep all files and I, and then I'll be looking for the string password, let's say, and I'm going to be looking for that specific string within this directory, which is the current directory, and then I would like to print out all error messages to the no binary. And there we go. So that specific string can be found in the word list.txt file and the new word list.txt file. You can see how it delimits the string and it also colors it, which is quite nice. To stand out, we can grep for any string. We can grep for files even. We can also do that. Instead of the current directory, I can actually look for the string password in the entirety of the system, which is going to take quite a while, I guess. So that process is running, and you know what, I'm not gonna actually wait for it to finish, but this is something that you can do. So to summarize, grep in this case recursively greps all files in the directory to look for password or string and show only valid output to terminal. With Ctrl C, by the way, you can stop a process. As you can see, I did exactly that, and I actually forgot to tell you about it, which is quite funny. With Ctrl C, you can stop a process from running. With Ctrl Z, you can background the process. When you background the process is not going to stop, it is going to continue, but you're not going to be seeing it in the terminal. And if you want to go back to that process that you have backgrounded, you just have to foreground it with FG. So let's see how that happens. Let's see. I'll begin that process again. I'll press enter. I'll background it with Ctrl Z. And as you can see, we have suspended it. But if I press FG, I'll foreground it. It is continued. So it's kind of actually, I have misled you. It's being suspended in this specific case, but sometimes, so meaning it has been paused until it has been continued with the command foreground. But in some cases, I believe that it's not actually paused, it's actually backgrounded. Let's Ctrl C to get out of this process because we don't really want to wait for it. And now let's cover pipe. Pipe is something really interesting. It allows us to get an output of one command, insert it into a buffer, and then use that data from the buffer as input into another command. Most of you might not really know what a buffer is. It might confuse you, so I'm not really going to dive that low level into explaining what buffer is, but imagine it as a box that you use to put some stuff into the box and then move it to the other room. Instead of the stuff in the box, imagine that the box contains data, and that data can be transferred into another place or another command or process. Let's see how that happens. We can, since everything in Linux is a file, literally the whole file system represents the operating system, we can analyze the CPU information from that specific file called cpuinfo, located in the processes folder. So we are presented with a lot of information. The majority of that information is repetitive, and honestly we don't really care about it though. We just want to, let's say, we want to look for the model of the CPU. We can do that with the operator vertical bar to pipe data from the command cat. I'm going to use the cat command to dump the contents of CPU info, but I'm not really interested into the whole information from that specific file. I'm looking for very specific information, which is the model of the CPU. So I'm going to grep for the model as so. Let's see what happens next. Oh, there we go. So instead of dumping the entirety of that specific file, which is a bunch of gibberish, we have been presented with multiple existing words with the same matching string of model. So, but it kind of looks silly because since it is repetitive, we have been dumped with multiple lines that look exactly the same. We can fix that. We can pipe that information to sort it, and then we can pipe that already sorted information to uniq, which is going to basically eliminate all repetitive strings, and it's going to present us with a very fresh looking output. As you can see, the model is 140 and the model name is 11gen, etc, etc. So this is how we can pipe basically commands and the output of different commands into other commands, and then the output of other commands to thirdly and fourth and sixth and etc. until you see logic in it. Since we have covered a lot of commands, I'm not really going to expand much further into that current video. This is quite a lot of information for you to absorb. I'll go easy on you. There are two commands left for you to learn. In order for us to update or upgrade our operating system, all we have to do is use apt-get. So apt get update. Let's see. Now it's going to make multiple HTTP requests to the mirrors and extract all the changes that have been made, download them, and then install them. If we want to upgrade our operating system, we do the same, but instead of updating, we are going to type upgrade. But please keep in mind that this can take quite a while, since if you're not on the latest release of Kali Linux, and while you're upgrading your operating system, it is really advised against to stop that process with Ctrl+C or close the terminal. Stay patient and just wait until that process has been finished or completed. A couple minutes ago, I pasted the link from GitHub. Probably you have heard about that platform, but it's a platform that contains huge, insane amount of software. So we're going to be downloading stuff from GitHub on a regular basis. And to do that, we're going to be using the command git clone, which allows us, just as wget and curl, to download files, but from GitHub alone. In most cases, this is the best way to download stuff from GitHub, from the terminal at least. If you are missing that specific software, the moment you type git, you might be presented with a question from the terminal asking you to install this software. But if it doesn't and you're wondering, you can use apt-get and then install, if I believe it was git, yes, git, and then as you can see, I'm already on the newest version, so nothing was really installed. But if you are missing that specific software, it is going to install it for you. So this is also a way to install software with apt-get. Sometimes apt will not have that specific software in its repository, so you might be looking for alternative ways to get that software. But in most cases it works, at least on Debian. We can also use other ways, such as semicolon, to separate or concatenate different commands. What do I mean? Let's say I want to first update my system, and with the end operator I will concatenate a second command and say I would like to run upgrade after the first command has been finished. Okay, so first it will update and then it will upgrade. I don't want to do that right now, but you can do that with the operator and. So there are other ways to do that. We can do apt-get update, semicolon, and then apt-get upgrade, which is going to do exactly the same. This is important because sometimes you might want to save up some time and write a command that we call one-liner that basically does what it literally says. You type a one-line command that will execute multiple commands actually. Now that we have covered all these commands, let's talk about why do we actually need those commands. Firstly, we will need those commands to successfully use the operating system. We will need to be able to change directories, to copy files, to download them, to manipulate them, you know, all those simple things that we do in our Windows machine. We can do that now from the terminal in our Linux machine, which is quite cool if you think about it. Another really important thing that we need to understand is that those, at first, simple commands are actually quite powerful. They can save us a lot of time. And from the hacker's point of view, we can actually use those binaries, because those commands are actually binary files, to escalate our privileges. What do I mean by that? Whenever we hack into a computer, we are usually a limited user with limited privileges. That means that we cannot really access certain files, we cannot really access or do certain stuff, execute certain commands. So in order for us to completely compromise that environment, we need to escalate our privileges to get administrative rights or root in Linux. We can do that with those commands. And that's the end of the video. Please like it if you enjoy the content, subscribe to our channel to support us. If you have any questions, share them down below in the comment section where we can help you. Anyways, see you in our next video where we're going to be talking about privilege escalation.